Hello and welcome once again to The Blueprint. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock, with new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. We have another doozy lined up for you today. We have Michael Cooper back, the Member of Parliament for St. Albert, Edmonton. He's also the critic for Democratic Reform, to talk about the Loser Liberal Pension Protection Act. What is that?
It's exactly what you've called it, the Loser Liberal Pension Protection Act. What the government has done is they've introduced ostensibly a bill to amend the Canada Elections Act. So they have presented it as an elections bill, but the real purpose of it is to pad the pockets of Liberal MPs. We have a very unpopular government.
You don't say.
A very unpopular prime minister.
Yes.
And they have a real problem, and that is that Justin Trudeau has to call an election by October 20th, 2025. And why I say that's a problem is that Liberal MPs elected in 2019 won't qualify for their pension, MPs who face almost certain defeat. So what do the Liberals do? They introduce this bill to push back the date of the next election so that these Liberal MPs will suddenly qualify for their pension. It is about as dishonest and as cynical as it gets.
That is quite amazing, but this is what Liberals do, right? They look after themselves first and to heck with everybody else.
Well, that's right. And it's about these soon-to-be loser Liberals are now going to walk away with millions of dollars that they otherwise wouldn't have been entitled to.
All right, let's cue up cut one. We'll do this off the top rather than holding it through the show. A bit of a news report just talking about this, and we'll get your comments in just a second. Play cut one.
The minimum pension for an MP who does no extra duties is 18% of their $194,000 salary, or about $35,000 a year, starting at age 65. That amount goes up for more years in the House, while ministers, party leaders, and committee chairs get more in salary and higher pensions. 32 Conservatives, 22 Liberals, 6 NDPers, and 20 Bloc MPs would qualify if the election is moved back 1 week.
Well, I think there's better stuff they could be working on. Let's say that.
I like to be a little generous and say that it's just a funny coincidence, but it is a little interesting that it happened like that.
Sounds pretty opportunistic, doesn't it?
Does it ever? I think they're saying we need to move the election date because it conflicts with a holiday, I believe was the reasoning behind it.
Well, more dishonesty from the Liberals. If it was really about a holiday, then why not move up the election date rather than moving it back?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So where are we on this? I know there might be a vote in a couple hours that we're going to deal with this, hopefully, once and for all.
Yeah, so I moved an amendment that the Loser Liberal Pension Protection Act, which is what the bill really is, not go forward. So in a few hours, the House of Commons is going to be voting on the Conservative amendment to effectively kill the bill. The choice is now up to the NDP and the Bloc. The NDP and the Bloc have said they don't agree with the Loser Liberal Pension Protection Act, but if they vote against my amendment, what they're doing is allowing the bill to go forward. So we're going to find out very soon whether the NDP and the Bloc are true to their word or whether they're just playing politics and are also prepared to pad their pensions, because don't forget, a lot of Bloc and NDP MPs face or look to perhaps be unlikely to be returned to Parliament, and maybe they wouldn't mind padding their pockets too.
Well, it's amazing how they sell this to the Canadian public, even in question period, right? There is little to no emotion of discomfort on their face when they say they're pushing it back for a reason surrounding a holiday or otherwise. And really, I think Canadians, they can see right through this. This is extremely self-serving.
Yeah, and it just underscores why Canadians have had enough of this Prime Minister. The culture of entitlement knows no bounds with these Liberals. All
right, so we've had the issue with what we're dealing with now, Bill C-65, Again, the Loser Liberal Pension Protection Act. I love the name. I think it's quite fitting for what it is. We've had reports come out about interference in our election before the Prime Minister and the Liberal Party knowing about it, but not doing anything because it actually benefited them. Now we get the latest report from the NSICOP committee, so that the top secret committee of parliamentarians that looks over these types of reports at the most secret level, coming out and really, I think, giving a lot of information that should be quite concerning to Canadians regarding the integrity of our elections going forward.
Not only the integrity of our elections, but the integrity of certain members of Parliament, because in this bombshell report of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, they identified a number of MPs who wittingly, therefore knowingly, collaborated with hostile foreign states. It shouldn't need to be said that the fundamental duty, first and foremost, of a member of Parliament is to serve the interests of Canada. And here we have, according to NSICOP, sitting members of Parliament who have put the interests of hostile foreign states ahead of the interests of Canada. Justin Trudeau knows the names of those MPs. He reviewed the NSICOP report unredacted and then decided to use his powers to black out the names of those MPs. Canadians deserve to know who these MPs are who are working for hostile foreign states.
I think so, absolutely. I think everybody wants to know, because if you're going into the polling station, as a Canadian does during election time, you probably would like to know whether or not your member of Parliament potentially is on that list.
Well, that's right. And when I asked Dominic LeBlanc, when he appeared at the Public Safety Committee, if he could, at the very least, provide the assurance that no one around Justin Trudeau's cabinet table is one of those witting MPs, one of those compromised MPs, he not once but twice refused to answer. I think that's very telling.
That's extremely telling. And I think Canadians in general, I know when I went back to my writing over the weekend, people were talking about this. This is a very live issue.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's just shocking to think that there are members of Parliament that are working for hostile foreign states. It's about as serious as it gets. A cloud is hanging over Parliament, and we need to provide sunlight to be transparent so that those MPs who are doing that, who've engaged in conduct that is about as serious as it gets, are held to account. And so what Conservatives are calling on the Liberals to do is to turn over all of the documents from the NSICOP report, all of the evidence NSICOP reviewed, to Madam Justice Hogue, who is the Commissioner of the Public Inquiry on Foreign Interference. That would allow Madam Justice Hogue to thoroughly review all of the documents, all of the evidence, and she could then make findings of fact. We are calling on Madam Justice Hogue to make those findings of fact and to name those MPs that wittingly collaborated with hostile foreign states, so that they are named. And again, I want to emphasize, it's not about naming MPs who might have come in contact with a foreign embassy or have met with an ambassador. I'm talking about MPs that where a judge, the commissioner, can make a finding of fact and determine that they, in fact, are compromised. Those are the MPs that need to be named.
I think that's where the public safety minister was trying to skate a little. He was basically in committee appearance, and we probably all seen the video, claiming that he didn't want to release names just in case it was by accident and potentially ruining a career. This actually provides some safeguards to that, so you know those people being named, as you said, a finding of fact, the facts support that conclusion.
It provides for the transparency and accountability that Canadians deserve, while at the same time allowing for a reasonable degree of due process in the circumstances. And in order for that to happen, it's all on Justin Trudeau to turn over those documents to Madam Justice Hogue. The fact that the Prime Minister and his Minister of Public Safety have been anything but transparent since the bombshell NSICOP report and have not even cleared the air so much as to say that there's no one in the cabinet that is compromised, raises serious questions about what is the Prime Minister hiding and who is he shielding.
And it really goes to like the mindset of the Liberals. Like, do they take any of this seriously? I don't expect you to get in the head of a Liberal, but at the same time, look at how many ethical breaches, the misspending, the mistruths being talked about, and they like shake it off.
It's not just a matter of not taking it seriously. It's bad enough that if they didn't take it seriously, but we have a Prime Minister that has at times himself been willing to go along with foreign interference where it benefits the Liberal Party. And don't take my word for it. Take the conclusion of Madam Justice Hogue in her first report, where she determined that when the Prime Minister had been briefed that one of his candidates, Han Dong, was being assisted by Beijing, and the Prime Minister covered that up, allowed Mr. Dong to stand as a Liberal candidate and get elected, even though the Prime Minister, again, knew that he was being assisted by a hostile foreign state, by the Beijing-based communist regime. Madam Justice Hogue concluded that the Prime Minister made that decision out of concern for what she characterized as direct electoral consequences. Direct electoral consequences. In other words, Madam Justice Hogue concluded there that the Prime Minister put his interests, the partisan interests of the Liberal Party, ahead of countering Beijing's interference. That's the conclusion of Madam Justice Hogue. It's pretty damning.
It is, and the Prime Minister seems to think he can get away with it, right? And kind of his mentality is, well, I'm fighting for this cause, right, in his mind, so I then, in turn, am entitled to make these kind of errors because it's all about the common good, right? Like, this is I think this is his real thinking. He believes that he is somehow empowered to save the country, right? And therefore, these mistakes should be forgiven.
Right, and he's also attacked CSIS.
Yes.
He attacked the director of CSIS when he appeared before Madam Justice Hogue's inquiry. The Prime Minister and Dominic LeBlanc have also been critical of NSICOP. They've said, well, the NSICOP report or certain conclusions or the way things have been framed are not exactly accurate. Okay, well, if that's the case, then turn over the documents to Madam Justice Hogue so that she can make appropriate findings of fact.
Right. Their words never meet their actions, is, right. I think, the common theme over 9 long years of this government. Michael, the time is almost up, unfortunately, but as you know, the guests get the last word, so the floor is yours.
Well, I think it's, again, up to the Prime Minister to, if he has nothing to hide, then if there aren't members of his cabinet that are compromised, if there aren't members of the Liberal caucus that are compromised, frankly, any MP is compromised. It's
right. Doesn't matter the power.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Doesn't matter. The ball is in his court. We're going to continue to press the Prime Minister to turn over the documents so that we can have Madam Justice Hogue expand her mandate and do her job and provide the transparency that Canadians deserve, and to hold these MPs, whoever they are, or senators for that matter, who are working with hostile foreign states. It's absolutely intolerable that we would have sitting members of Parliament or sitting senators who are collaborating with hostile foreign states, and they need to be called out, they need to be held accountable, and it's up to the Prime Minister to allow that to happen. He needs to get out of the way and allow that to happen. Well,
hopefully public pressure will force the NDP to withdraw on the loser Liberal Pension Protection Act, then move into this issue of foreign interference, and hopefully get the NDP to somehow step aside with their agreement with the Liberals, because this is the only way we're going to get through this and actually get the truth, I think.
That's right.
All right, Michael Cooper, Member of Parliament, St. Albert, Edmonton, we appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jamie.
Also the critic for democratic reform. Thank you for your time as well. Don't forget, even throughout the summer, we'll have new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Guaranteed this is information you're not seeing or hearing on the mainstream media, so you can also tell your friends to download this program on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Until next week, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the Blueprint.